Okay, good morning and welcome to Wednesday, affectionately known as Hump Day. Well, I hope you recovered from all the festivities from National Milk a Cow on an Airplane Day yesterday. Those are the best. Unless, of course, you're allergic to chocolate. Not quite as tasty, but have at it. John Bon Jovi, quote, "Don't get too comfortable with who you are at any given time. You may miss the opportunity to become who you want to be." Seems like one of them was onto something. They labeled this one a fun fact. Note to self, avoid Myanmar. So glad I made the investment for all those Sony Blu-ray discs. So many good songs. I don't know how they can say that definitively. For the first time, criticizing himself. And secondly, he gained respect and credibility. Here it is, Carnegie's principle number 3. The lessons learned in this chapter can be hard for the ego to swallow at times. Thanks for joining today, and have a fantastic day.